Hey everybody, and welcome to my N5 series on the SP404 Mark II, where I cover a topic in about 5 minutes. This is session 10.1, and we'll be covering Midi in general. There's a lot to kind of understand or know about how Midi works on the Mark II, and I figured I would use this as a bunch of sessions to just kind of show you the basics of setting things up, how they work, and kind of what's going on. So, with that said, we may not end up making a track at the end of this. This might be just more of an informative set of sessions, but I don't know. We'll see if anything interesting kind of comes up. I'll do that, but no pressure. Anyway, first thing to kind of know, if you've looked on the back of your Mark II, you'll see that there's two 1/8" jacks on the back for Midi. There's one that's for Midi in and one for Midi out, and they are TRS jacks. And the important thing you want to know is they're type A jacks, which is a certain type of wiring, and there are type B, and you cannot just use these TRS from type A to type B. They won't work because the connections are different. But these particular cables I have are type A, and the type B will look identical to this. You won't be able to tell. It's just how they're wired internally. But this is what you need if you want to, or something similar, to get the TRS into the back of your Mark II, and then convert it into these MIDI connectors so you can hook them up to your device. In a future session, I will show you how to actually do that. For today, I figured I would just show you a few things using my iPad, though. Whoop. Touch IDs over here. So I want to just kind of show you a few things that are good to know about how this works. So I've got a completely blank project. There's absolutely nothing in it. I've just got the USB-C going from the iPad right now into the mk2, Mark II, whichever, however you want to say it. Doesn't bother me. I know it does some people, but I'm okay. So the first thing to know about how this works is each pad bank has its own MIDI channel that it sends out. So pad bank A sends out on MIDI channel 1 from notes C2 all the way up to D sharp 3. And you can't hear anything, but you can probably see I'm hitting the note here. And a whole bunch of instruments are triggering over here. We'll get into that. But if I change to bank B, now it's sending MIDI channel 2, channel 3, 4, 5, and then if you go to the banks F, G, H, I, and J, it's going to be MIDI channel 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And again, these are all only able to send from your pads MIDI notes C2 up to D sharp 3. One thing that's good to know, though, is if you go into chromatic mode, this chromatic mode is sending out notes from bank 16, or not bank 16. It would be, if there was a 16th bank, it would be doing that. But anyway, it is sending out on MIDI channel 16. So you can get a little bit more note range. As you can see here, I've got 0 through 12. It does not send any MIDI notes on these last 3 pads. I can scroll all the way down to -12, but I want to let you know, the chromatic mode is a kind of quick way to send MIDI notes with a little bit of a broader range, because it goes from a -12, and I'll show you how you can kind of figure out what the note is and all that, up to the maximum of 12. So instead of 16 pads, you've got, 25 MIDI notes? Anyway, this can be a good way to just send MIDI out over to your other device as well, without actually having to get it into a pattern or other things. So one thing I wanted to show you, so if we go back here, we're bank A, we're sending out on channel 1. And as you can see, it's triggering all of these different, you can see the meters going, it's triggering all these. If I hit external source, an additional problem we have is, now we can hear it, but it's playing a note on all of these. That can be annoying. And again, if you just turn it on and off, it's going to keep doing that behavior. I have not figured out a workaround for this quite yet, but other than unplug it, turn ext source on, and then plug it in. And thank you, Siri, for coming on. You can go away. Go away. So I just unplugged it. I turned ext source on. I wish there was a setting in the system settings menu to adjust this, but there's not. But anyway, as you can see, this is now triggering all kinds of notes. So if you're working with like a DAW or something, you might want to use solo. Then you can make sure it's not sending notes to everything. Another option is in here, as I said, you might not be able to read this very well, but all of these tracks currently say all. So if you happen to be using Korg Gadget, if you go into the gear here, you can switch between MIDI input easy to advanced. Advanced just lets you come in and you can set up if you want it to come from all channels or all inputs and all channels. In this case, I'm letting it come in from all inputs. I do want to set MIDI channel 1, and then you probably want to do the same thing where you might say MIDI channel 2, MIDI channel 3. And again, like all I'm doing is just allowing this to use different channels. So the effect of this will be, and sorry, as I said, all I'm doing is just changing these through different channels. So 5. So these will now all map to the different banks. So now you can at least hear and see I have everything playing, but I could potentially create a pattern where I would be using pad bank A to control an external instrument on here through MIDI channel 1. If we switch to bank B, you can hear the sound has changed. If I go to C, oh, that's right. It's just these bottom 3 or bottom 4. And then D. So it's just a quick way. It's a little bit of hacky in my mind, but this does work to allow you to control multiple MIDI tracks from the Mark II. And again, if I go to E, you can at least see that the meter's moving. This is the Taipei on the gadget is just a MIDI note. It's just for can be able to control external MIDI, but you can use it to. I'm just sending MIDI to it. And now if I do like bank F, you can see nothing's triggering this time because there's nothing on bank 6. If I go shift chromatic, nothing's triggering over here because nothing's on channel 16. So as I said, I just want to kind of start showing you guys how to do some stuff with MIDI, a little bit how this works. Hopefully this was helpful if you decide you want to use some external gear or you want to control it or anything. But this was just, as I said, an attempt to help show you guys how some of this stuff works. Thanks. Catch you soon. Bye-bye.